Is this the first nefarious or semi underhanded thing you'd ever done? Or had you ever done anything illegal before this?
Not directly. You know, Ephraim had done a few, like was involved or, like I was aware of, I should say, of a few shady things he had done to like win the contract. So there were a few like things that he submitted to the government in the process before we won the contract that were probably not completely above board.
Okay.
Like, for example, they wanted to see that we had, they did it with a series of audits, they call it, but, which is like little mini investigations into the company before they award you the contract. They want to know that they're awarding a very big contract to a responsible company that's going to deliver. So one thing they wanted to know was that we had enough money to deliver the contract to be able to finance it. And so Ephraim used one of Ralph's properties as proof of like assets. Yeah. And Ralph had gotten that property that he owned, what do they call it? When you get appraised, that's the term, appraised at a very high price that was way out of proportion with what was in reality. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how he did it, but he got it appraised very high, and like literally like double or four times the actual thing. Yeah, so
they're trying to get Trump for it, but it's not really. Every asshole thinks his property's worth more,
right? Okay, they knew what the reality was. Okay, so things like that. So I knew of those things, and there were some other things as well. Okay. I don't know how much detail.
So keep going.
So so he asked me to change, and I'm not even sure that changing that is necessarily illegal. I don't know what the exact legality of is.
Fraud, maybe. I don't know, but it's a different foreign country. It's Albania. There's hardly any rules over there.
Yeah. So anyway, I give him the documents. He goes to Albania. He talks to the head of the Albanian export company, Yili Panari, and shows him the documents. And Yili takes one look at the documents and he's like, "Don't show me your fake documents."
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're Albanian. Yeah, they're the king of doctoring documents.
He knew right away. He knows the industry. He knows that he has the lowest price. He knows that the Czechs and the Ukrainians aren't going to give way lower prices than him because they're going to have to pay to dismantle it if they don't sell it. So he knows he has the lowest price. Right. So he knew right away. He's like, "Don't show me your fake documents." And Ephraim like kept him bothering him. "Oh, come on, I need this bad. You need to give me a better deal. We'll work directly. We don't even need Henry. I'm going to have all this other business for you in the future. We're about to win all these other contracts. I swear, blah, 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 blah." Right. Eventually Yili is like, "You know what? I'll make a meeting with the guy who can make this decision." And he makes a meeting with a guy named Deliorgi, right? Deliorgi, we found out later, was like the head of the Albanian mob. And somehow he's involved with this, and he's connected with the prime minister's son, who was also at the meeting.
But that's how it goes over there. Exactly. That's how it goes in Russia, how it goes in a lot of Eastern.
Yeah, the government and the mob are kind of work hand in hand.
Totally.
Yeah. So Deliorgi tells Diveroli that, I know that you want a better price on this ammo, and I know that you're also paying this guy, Kosta Trebishka, this other Albanian guy, to repackage the ammo. So why don't you give me the repackaging contract? I'll repackage it. I'll make money off that contract, and then I could give you a lower price on the ammo. And Ephraim says, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That guy's fired. You're hired. Let's go." Yeah. And so they started repackaging the ammo. And the guy Costa, who owned the box company, he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I know that you guys are switching providers for the repackaging job. I understand it's no hard feelings, just business, but I got stuck with like 20 grand worth of boxes that I was planning to use for this contract. You guys are going to need this anyway, so why don't you just buy it from me, so I don't lose 20 grand on these boxes." And so I told Ephraim, like, "Why don't, we buy these boxes from him?" And he's like, "Yeah, like the new Deliorgi doesn't want to have anything to do with Costa. They already bought their boxes. They don't need them, So I'm like, "Well, why don't you just pay him the 20 grand? Because, we're kind of like leaving him out in the cold." Right. And Diveroli says,
That's how this guy does business.
It's just how he does business. I'm like, "What's he going to do?" I said, "Ephraim, he knows everything, right? Right. He knows about the repackaging and why we're doing it. Right. Give him $20,000, right? We have a $300 million contract. Yeah. Let's not f that up."
Yeah, you dumb.
Yeah.
And he's Albanian.
Yeah.
And you're in Albania.
Yeah. And at this point, Ephraim had flown
He
back.
got himself out of there. Okay.
Yeah. And the guys we were going with are the actual organized crime. They're not going to let this guy do anything. And so he's like, what's he going to do? He's not going to do anything. Just let it go. And I'm like, okay, well, I told him, I'm like, that's a very bad idea. But it's your money, right? So it turned out that Costa got really upset about it. And he called up the New York Times and he told them what we were doing. And he called up the FBI and told them what we were doing. And his biggest mistake was that he called up the local Albanian press and told them that the Albanian politicians were getting kickbacks from this deal. About a week later, he ends up dead. In a very suspicious car accident.
Yup.
He was like in an empty field on a dirt road and somehow his car had run him over. It was, he was face down in the dirt.
Hey, nobody asked any questions.
Yeah.
It's just what happens sometimes.
So nobody really believes it was an accident, but they made it look like an accident.
Yeah.
And they called it an accident in the press. Yeah. And so, And so anyway, but the new guys, the Deliorgi, what he did was he just had the Albanian army do the repackaging and didn't pay the soldiers anything. Right. So he got 100% of the money. He didn't have to pay his workers.
But now the story's out though.
Yeah. Okay. So the story is, it's out in the Albanian press. Okay. Right. And
New York Times,
the New York Times is investigating.
Right.
They're investigating at this point. They haven't published anything. Okay. At this point, Ephraim, the contract is starting to go well, right? That we're delivering like 3 to 4 aircraft loads every week into Afghanistan.
It's like flying out of
Albania,
okay,
and other places for the other items, like Bulgaria for the grenades, and we also had some stuff coming from the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
So we had a few different countries we were sourcing from.
Right.
But the most of the aircraft were coming from Albania because that was the highest volume of stuff.
It's mostly bullets.
It's mostly as far as volume goes. Yeah. Actually, it was the lowest value of the contract because it was so cheap.
Yeah.
Each aircraft load of AK-47 ammo is like less than $300,000 of our cost, or no, of what we were charging the government is like $270,000.
What was the highest priced item on that contract?
So, I mean, individual item was probably the anti-aircraft rockets. And I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $150 a rocket.
Wow.
Something like that.
And how many rockets?
I don't recall offhand, but it was somewhere.
Thousands?
It was the tens of thousands.
Wow. And where do those come from? Where do those come from?
The rockets, I think we were sourcing them from Bulgaria. Wow. Yeah, along with the grenades. The grenades was one of our most profitable items on the contract. The grenades we were paying, we were making about like a 30% margin on it, and they were costing us we were paying for them about $25 to $30 each grenade. So, and we were able to fit about $2.5 million worth of grenades on a single aircraft.
Where are they from?
They're from Bulgaria as well. Yeah.
And those shells, those anti-aircraft shells, those are the ones you see people stuffing into the big anti-aircraft guns on the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the rockets, I think they were out of like portable like launchers.
Oh, okay.
You're probably thinking of the mortar shells.
I am. I'm thinking of the mortars.
Yeah,
okay, so these go into rockets.
Yeah, the rocket launchers. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So and
is the money coming in like every 30 days you're getting?
So no, because we had our factoring agreement with Wells Fargo.
Right.
As soon as the aircraft lands and we get the receiving document, we got paid by Wells Fargo.
Oh,
like
brilliant.
minus %.
So you have millions of dollars coming in.
Exactly. And we're just cycling it through to go do the next aircraft.
Yeah.
So we're constantly recycling the money. And in our bank accounts going up and up and up. Now at this point, I hadn't been paid anything, right?
Why? How is this?
Right. Because
this is crazy.
So when I first won like the fuel contract, by the time because the government pays you 30 days later, by the time we got paid, I was already working on another contract. And Ephraim tells me, I'm spending my money to finance these deals. It's only fair that you should finance the deals with whatever money you have. So why don't we take the money that you just made on this contract, roll it into the next contract to finance the next one? And then once we did that contract, he rolled it into the next one, then into the Afghan contract. So at this point, I kept on rolling my money in, and I'd been living off of my savings for like a year and a half.
Right.
My savings, which I had made from like the SD card business and the bedsheet business, were dwindling. My daughter I have a daughter at this point. She's about 6 months old. But I thought I was going to be a multimillionaire very soon.
You're going to cash out on
exactly.
what, half of 60 million?
Yeah. Well, the agreement for this contract was 25% because this was like more his bread and butter and not like the fuel, which was a brand new business. So I was going to make like $15 million, which is more than enough. I was going to be very happy with $15 million.
Were you going to get out after this huge
was my
deal?
Plan. That was my plan. As soon as the deal was over, because I hated working with him. He was just like a total nightmare to work with.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sounds
he would
like
call me up at 3 a.m. yelling and screaming out, we have to get to the office right now. And you know what I mean? Like crazy.
And were you working other weapons contracts for other contracts, other deals, or were you, when you got this big $300 million deal, this was it? You put all of your effort into that?
I put all my effort into it. Ephraim decided that he wanted to go after everything out there. Right. And I told him, let's not do that. Let's focus on this and maximize our profits and deliveries. Make sure we deliver on this massive contract that we just won, which is like 20, 25 times bigger than anything we'd ever done before. And he was like, nah, we're just getting started. We're getting rolling, you know, we're going after everything now. And so he started bidding on all these other contracts, the vast majority of them, like $1 million, $2 million contracts, which is big in isolation, but compared to 300 million, he shouldn't have been wasting his time on it. So he was winning all these other contracts. I was just focused on the Afghan contract. And so we were delivering on a regular basis, like 3-4 aircraft loads a week into Kabul. And then Ephraim comes into my office one night, and at this point we had about 15 employees. So everyone had left the office for the day. I was working a little late, and he comes into my office and he tells me, a lot of the guys around the office, they're saying that you're not pulling your weight around here anymore. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The Afghan contract's going great. We're delivering on a regular basis. Everything's going smooth. And he says, yeah, the Afghan contract's going great. But, we're really struggling with these contracts going to Iraq, and you're not helping with those. And I said, well, I'm on commission only. I'm not getting paid a salary, why you want to give me a percentage of the Iraq contracts? It's like, oh, don't be ridiculous. You didn't help us win those contracts. Why should I give you a percentage of the Iraq contract? So I'm like, so why should I help you deliver on them? And he says, well, because if the Iraq contracts don't get delivered, then the company can go down, and that takes your Afghanistan contract with it. And I said, but I'm only getting paid on the Afghanistan contract. You want to give me a percentage of the whole company? And he says, well, I'll tell you what. I wouldn't make this deal for anyone else, but David, you're my best friend. Your hard work is a big part of the reason AEY is where it is today. So only because of that, I'm going to give you a very generous $100,000 a year in executive salary and 1% of AEY. And I said to him, well, the Afghan contract is going to make us at least 90% of the money over the next 2 years. And I'm supposed to get 25% of the Afghan contract. So I think I'll stay with my 25%. Thank you very much. And he says to me, well, how about 0? Take it or leave it. That's the only offer on the table. And I was this close to punching him in the face. Yeah. I couldn't believe it, because I've been working on 0 salary for like a year and a half at this point. All my previous winnings, money was being rolled into this deal. And now he's changing the deal completely under me. And
you had nothing in writing?
So we did have a written contract, but it was a handwritten contract. It wasn't like run through lawyers or anything. However, that handwritten contract mysteriously disappeared, and my scanner I was planning on scanning it and emailing it to myself. And so I put the contract on my living room table, and like a day or two later, like it mysteriously disappeared. And this was like right before he came into my office. So yeah, very suspicious. I blame myself. I mean, I could have gone to Kinko's and, made a copy. I mean, I was an idiot, but I didn't think he was going to screw me that blatantly like that.
He'd done it with everyone else though.
He had. So I should have known. Look, in retrospect, it was obvious.
It was the Ephraim playbook.
It was the Ephraim playbook, and I'd seen him do it to other people. I don't know why I thought I was special. I mean, just because he said I was his best friend, it didn't mean that he wasn't going to screw me. And obviously,
this guy has no friends. He's a complete sociopath.
Yeah, he doesn't know the meaning of friendship. Right. That doesn't work in his mind that way.
So what do you do now?
So that was a really, really tough because I was running out of money quick and I had a baby to support. And I went from thinking I was going to make $15 million over the next 2 years to about to go bankrupt and not being able to make rent. So I was super depressed for like 2 weeks. And eventually I realized, I know this business and I have all the contacts. And I have even some contacts that Ephraim doesn't have because I'd been to a few trade shows without him and I didn't give him all my contacts. So I decided to start my own company, start to bid on contracts myself. In the meantime, I was negotiating with Ephraim because I realized, you know what? I don't really want to sue him for years and I need money now. And he knew it too because he knew my situation. So this piece of knew that I was desperate. And eventually he owed me at that point about $5 million. And he
from past contracts you'd fulfilled?
And mostly for the Afghan contract. The vast majority of it was for what we had made.
Why were you not able to go in to the bank accounts and just transfer yourself money? You didn't have access to it?
I probably could have done that. That would have definitely been very illegal, and I probably would have been arrested for doing that. So I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to commit a crime. Though I did think about it.
Well, okay. I guess if you guys aren't co-owners.
Yeah, we're not co-owners. Okay. He owned 100% of the company. So that would have been
it's
theft.
Tough.
That would have been outright theft.
Sure.
So it did cross my mind, but I did, I'm happy I didn't do that. I'm happy I didn't do that. Anyway, so we're negotiating because I was desperate for money and he knew it. So he owed me about $5 million. Eventually we negotiated to about $300,000, which is a tiny fraction of what he owed me.
Right.
But I figure with $300,000, I'm good for the next few years. Yeah. That'll be enough to get me on my feet, get my new company up and going. I won't have to worry about making rent and supporting my kid. So I'd rather have $300,000 now than maybe $5 million in a few years, maybe. And he's the kind of guy who will hide all his money overseas anyway.
That's right.
Which I knew he had overseas bank accounts in the Seychelles Islands. Wow. So he was already hiding money overseas. So I knew that this guy, there's nothing beneath him. So we made an agreement that he would give me $300,000. And the day that we were going to sign this agreement, I get a call in the morning from the secretary. And at the office, I was still on good terms with everybody who worked at the company. I was considered the nice boss. He would walk into the office and start screaming at people, "I don't pay you guys to talk. Get on the computer and make me some money." He's the kind of guy he was. And so everyone hated him, but they put up with him because, they needed the work. And so I got along well with everybody. So the secretary calls me up and she's like, "Hey, I just want you to know the feds just raided the office. And they're boxing up all the documents. And they told us to step away from our computers immediately. And they kicked us all out of the office. And we're not allowed to come back into the office." And I'm like, oh, crap. The jig is up, right?
Yeah.
And so I call up Alex, who's my best friend, who's doing the repackaging operation in Albania. And I tell him, "Hey, Alex, just want you to know, I just heard that the feds raided the office." And he's like, "What? Why would the feds raid the office?" And I said to him, "I don't know, maybe because of the Chinese stuff." And he says, "Why? I mean, that's just like a commercial that's not illegal. It doesn't violate the embargo." He has a degree in international relations. Right. So, he was well aware of all this stuff. And he's like, "That doesn't violate the embargo. That's not, maybe that's a commercial dispute. They can get you for breach of contract and sue you, but that shouldn't be an illegal thing." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I'm just telling you, the feds raided the office." And he's like, "Okay, let me sniff around and find out what's going on." He calls up Danny, which is the guy that Ephraim ended up replacing me with after I quit.
Okay.
He calls up Danny and he tells Danny, "Danny, I need this particular document because I have an aircraft landing later this afternoon to get the export permit. I need you to get me this document." He, knowing that the document is in the office and everyone had been kicked out of the office by the feds, he wanted to see what he would say. And so he hears Alex told me this later. He hears Danny cover up the mouthpiece of his phone and whisper to Ephraim, "Hey, it's Alex. He needs this document. What should I tell him?" And he hears Ephraim whisper back, "Oh crap, that document's in the office. We can't get it. Tell him that there was a bomb threat. Yeah. Tell him there was a bomb threat in the office, and that we all had to leave and we can't get to it, but we'll get it to him later." And so Danny gets back on the phone. He's like, "There was a bomb threat. We can't get you that document." And Alex is thinking, why is he lying to me? Right? Why isn't he telling me the truth? Maybe Ephraim's planning to pin everything on me. Maybe he's going to say, oh, I had no idea about this whole repackaging operation. It was all Alex's idea. He wanted to protect his cushy job in Albania, and he did all this without my knowledge. And so Alex is like, I'm not going down for this piece of shit. And he was on the next flight home back to Miami. Right. And so Alex and I both contact attorneys because the feds, the agents were trying to get through to us. They wanted to talk to us.
Right. Okay.
And so everyone told us, don't talk to the feds without attorneys.
Right.
Of course.
And nobody had been arrested yet.
Nobody had been arrested. They just, they did a search warrant. Okay. They executed a search warrant on the office.
Was Ephraim at the office at the time of the raid?
No, he was not. He was still home.
Okay.
But like all the employees were there.
Right.
Because he would roll into the office late. So he was still home. But the employees were there. And so we hire attorneys, and the attorneys talk to the agents, you know, and the agents say, oh, we just want to ask them a few questions, you know. And the attorneys tell us, look, why don't you guys go into your emails? They're like, and go into your emails, your text messages, and search for any incriminating terms, right? Whatever it is you think you did wrong, search for those terms, like repackaging Chinese ammo, right? See what evidence they have before we make a decision here. So we did that. And it turned out that there was a lot, because at first Ephraim said, you know, okay, we're only talking on the phone about this. We can't send any emails, right? But everyone was in different time zones. Yeah. And there were a lot of very harsh deadlines with like planes landing and documents and stuff. And eventually it got, Ephraim sent an email, and then everyone was like, oh, he's sending an email. So let's all, you know, just started talking about, Ralph sent an email, our investor, with instructions on how to sand off Chinese markings off wooden crates with literal pictures step by step of how to do this.
How about this one? Say, I thought it was Korean. Boom, you're out. You know, were they going to read it anyway?
Unfortunately, we said Chinese in the email. So it was all written evidence. Right. So we knew we were screwed. We knew that they had all the evidence they needed to convict us on this. There was no way we could deny it.
How did they find out about it in the first place? Was it the people in Afghanistan, the army, the American military that picked up on it? And then let the feds know? Or?
So no, it was not the people in Afghanistan. So we thought that it was Costa who like told them.
The guy who ended up.
Right. Yeah.
He's the guy that ended up dead?
Yes.
Right. Yes. And before he died, when he was calling around to the papers.
Exactly.
Maybe he called the FBI as well.
Yeah. But it turned out that actually it was one of Ephraim's competitors who really hated him. Told like, I forgot which organization he told, but he had made some story up that was not true about like Ephraim like filing like serial numbers off Chinese AK-47s and selling them and stuff, which was completely untrue. But it was enough for them to open an investigation. And I think, and then like Ephraim let his broker's license that he had with the State Department lapse because he didn't think he needed it. And so that all that in combination was enough for the feds to get a search warrant. And so they did a search warrant, and so anyway, so so we told our lawyers about the evidence. They're like, look, if they have that kind of level of evidence, then there's no way you're going to win in court. Right.
But again, though, I thought this was just a commercial issue. This didn't violate the Warsaw Pact.
Right.
So what criminal illegality is there?
So that we were wondering about that. So eventually they charged us with fraud, right? As a way to deceive the government. That's how they charged it. So, but we figured, well, the government thinks this is illegal because they did a raid on the office, and we thought it was about the Chinese stuff, right away. And so our lawyers tell us, well, if they have rock solid evidence against you, then you really have only one option, and that's to cooperate, right? You're going to have to, because if you don't, you're going to go to court, you're going to lose, and then you're screwed, right?
Like, are you facing prison time for that kind of fraud?
Possibly. And I'll tell you, when they charge us, the way they did the deal. So they told us, look, you want to talk to them, because even if you fight in court, you're going to need like about $300K to pay a good lawyer for this. Do you have $300K? No, you don't. Okay. Well, then your only option is a public defender, and you're going to be one of 200 cases on their workload. You're going to be lucky if they remember your name. You know, so of course this is what the private lawyers are telling me, and they
federal public defenders are really good.
Yeah,
it's not
I'm
like
sure.
that.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not like the state,
right? Yeah, that's that. I'm sure it's different, but that's what my private lawyers were telling me.
Exactly.
So you know, of course they have a vested interest in saying that. So both Alex and I, you know, agreed to talk to the feds, and they the way they do it. Of course, they separate us. They interview us separately, and they tell you, you know, you're going to tell us everything. Don't leave a single detail out. If we think that you've omitted anything on purpose, then you get 0 credit for cooperation, and we're going to tell the judge to go hard on you, you know, for deceiving us. So you better tell us everything. So we told him everything, and at the end of the interview, one of the agents tells me, you know, I'm sure you're probably wondering what we know, and just so you know. When we did the raid on the office, we found a to-do list on Ephraim's desk in his handwriting. And one of the items on the to-do list is repackaged Chinese ammo.
What a dumbass.
Yeah.
Oh, not only is he scandalous and amoral, he's stupid.
Yeah. Well, he's very smart in certain ways. I've always said he's an idiot savant. He's very smart in some ways and very stupid in other ways. He was, you know, so yeah, you know, so they're like, yeah, we knew about it.